because of their internet, to put their camera on. I'm going to ask you to put it on for a few minutes so that all of us can be seen, not just some of us. I understand that sometimes our connection is unstable, literally and figuratively. But if you could put your screen on, that would be nice for all of us. Good. Thank you, Yael. Thank you, Michelle. Just going to wait that extra minute while we do this. And if you just arrived, if you wouldn't mind, if you know how to do this, put where you're from, rename yourself. So it says Helen or Joshua or Sarah and where you are. So we see where, you know, who's in this wide world called this Zoom room. Got it. Stacy, thank you for telling us that your internet is slow. No worries. I just wanted to invite you so that everybody could see you and not just you. So for those who I have not met yet, my name's Kathy. And Jenny, could you just wave? That is my co-pilot in this venture, Jenny Macke. We've been colleagues and friends for decades. So we're going to hold this meeting with the support of Virginia, who is the executive director of Open Floor International, and Leah, who has been the admin for a really long time and is actually transitioning out of that job. So,
and maybe a shout out to Mayero also, because she's going to monitor chat for us, and she's one of our assistants. Get a wave, Mayero. There she is.
Oh, good. Great. Good. Okay, my lovelies. So I know we came here for all kinds of questions and answers, hopefully more answers than questions. But I thought that it was important that before we go into the meat or the heart of the matter today, that we actually sit for 1 minute in one of the basic values of Open Floor International, which is a sense of connection and aligning with something that's common to all of us. So this is how we start every meeting that's an organized meeting in Open Floor. So I'm going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, take your hands off the keys. Welcome for anyone who's just coming. Take your hands off the keys, sit on back. If it feels good and right to close your eyes, do that. And if it doesn't, just take your eyes away from the screen for a minute. And I want you to just notice what brought you here today. Each of us in our unique way had a reason for taking time out of our busy lives to come and be on this screen and hear information about training or professional development or personal growth. And for me, that calling is a calling from our soul. It's a soul's calling. What is my purpose here in life? And how might I use my time wisely to serve what I was brought here to do? That's at the underpinning of what we're really here for today. For many of us, it might be a call to service. For some, it might be, I want some tools, either in my professional career or in my personal world, or both. And so just take another few seconds right there. I want to extend my gratitude, and I know Jenny's, for your time here. And just take another breath or two. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to the screen. If you're having difficulty hearing, I think Leah will try and help you. Can other people hear me? If so, can you put your thumb up? Okay, so then I think it might be at your end, Laura, and we'll work with you on that. Leah can help you. And I'm going to hand this over to Jenny, and Jenny is going to give us some foundational information that almost everybody asked. So we'll start there. Okay, Jen.
Great to be here with you all. Hi. So good to see so many faces I know and so many faces also. One of the things that I have seen happen again and again in Open Floor is dozens and dozens of people volunteer to create something to be at the moment where we launch training. It's truly a collaborative effort. So Kathy and I sit here at the forefront as the faculty, but please know how many people have contributed to what I'm about to speak to you about, which is the format of this training that we're launching right now. And in the same way that lots of people come together and then Kathy and I sit here with you, so do we do this with curriculum. We look at so many different ways of embodiment and movement practices in the world, and we work on distilling and distilling and distilling till we can get it down in a way that's really clear for people that are going through our trainings. So this is our distillation. Leah is going to copy in chat the web page, which is really well outlined. And if you want to look at that while I speak, go for it. If you're a visual person and you learn best that way, then go for it. Otherwise, you can just listen and I'll kind of give you the basic outline of our training. We have 2 tracks now in our training. So we have a teacher training track, and then we have an immersion track, which people who have studied Open Floor for a long time, but don't want to teach classes or workshop like Kathy and I do, but are infinitely fascinated by our curriculum, can then learn in this way through the immersion track. Our first immersion is beginning in March. It's called Common Ground, and it's on on physical embodiment. Each track, each phase is on a different form of embodiment. So the first one is physical embodiment. The next one is on emotional embodiment. The next one embodied of the mind, and the last one embodiment of soul. So if you're someone who that applies to, you don't want to go through the whole teacher training, but you really want to know how Open Floor curriculum can get incorporated more into your life, not just on the dance floor, but really in your waking life, then the immersion track is for you. The teacher training track is for people who really want to teach, in particular, Open Floor classes and workshops. So I'm going to speak about that briefly. You can read more about it online. I'll just point out some really important pieces of that. So everyone who goes through teacher training also takes the immersion track, which is oriented towards how our curriculum applies to your life and your work. But then they also participate in the mentor program. They get to take a lot of supplemental classes in between with many, many, many Open Floor faculty. So not just Kathy and I. So in between this immersion and practicum, you're continuing your study through webinars and classes online that are shorter, like 2-hour, hour-and-a-half segments. Plus you'll get a mentor. So we have a really wise team of mentors that you'll get to meet with 3 times in between an immersion and a practicum, plus the 4th time with a whole mentor group. So there's so many layers to this training. It really helps to go and look at the website, study it, perhaps even look at it for a moment. I'm going to pause for a second and look at it if you want to. And before Kathy and I move on to any other pieces, I'm just curious if anybody has questions about the format of this training. And if you do, you can go down to the reactions section and use the raise hand function, and it'll bump you up to the top left corner, and we can answer your questions. So let's just take a minute and pause. Yeah, if you go down, if you go down to the reactions section, you can actually raise your hand. We'll just practice that together. So there's a little raise hand function. Jesus just did it, and it bumps you up to the top left corner.
Do you see that, Yael?
Thanks. There you go.
There you
Jesus,
go, Lovey.
what's your
Okay.
question, Jesus? Specifically about this format as opposed to lots of other things, because we'll address other things as well. Go ahead, Jesus.
My question is about if people are somewhere in between the lines where they want to explore the open floor deeper and not sure at this point if they want to go into teacher training, are they parallel lines that one can do the immersion and then do the teacher training, or does one have to make the choice now?
Great. So Kathy and I are going to flip and flop answering these. I'll answer this one first, and then I'll let Kathy take the next one. Jesus, you can definitely take the immersion first. And then our request is if you want to begin this phase of teacher training, that 7 days after the immersion, you would let us know that you want to continue on the teacher training track. And we would get you with a mentor and get you all the information you need to be able to do the other components. So you need to do the phases in order if you're going to do the teacher training track. So in other words, let's say you take immersion 1, you decide not to do the teacher training track. You then take immersion 2 because you want to dive into the emotional embodiment phase. And then you realize I want to do the teacher training track. You'll have to wait until the next round of teacher training comes to begin with the other track of having a mentor, taking the webinars, and then doing the practicum. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then the other important piece is that, for this question and answer thing, we had 130 people that registered for it. So some people can't come, but are going to watch it later. So at some point, our teacher training track will fill. So it is filling. So if you end up waiting too long, that you take the immersion, you wait the 7 days, other people have applied, there is a risk that you take about the teacher training track being full at that point. So it's just something to keep in mind. We don't guarantee a spot. If you take immersion, it's on a first come, first served basis.
Yael, I know you raised your hand as quickly as you could at the beginning, so I'm going to call on you, and then we'll do as best we can to get to everybody.
So, no, it's more that I'm just not great with tech.
No worries.
Just a question about the teacher training, the components in between the immersions and practicums. Like, how much time do you estimate per week, like with the webinars and any extra reading that one would dedicate to open floor training?
A lifetime. No. No, seriously, it is a lifetime. I mean, everything you'll read, you'll start to see it and read it through a lens of what you're learning. So I just want to say that at the outset, especially when you're immersed in something as full on as a training. But I would say, Jenny, I don't know, an hour or so a week, 1 to 3, maybe. When you start teaching practice classes, that's going to be some time. The webinars are not every week. There are a couple between the phases, 2 to 3 of those. You will have mentor sessions. There'll be something every week. Yeah, I can't tell you exactly the amount of hours.
Yeah, cool.
But it's
there are also some, just put in there are also some practice sessions that you'll have to teach. So obviously those weeks will take more as you're planning your practice sessions, as you're teaching them. So those weeks obviously would be more intensive weeks for you.
Think of this as graduate school. Everybody on the call is an adult. So we've all gotten a certain amount of education. And now you're saying, I want to go into a different level of my education. That's going to take some time and effort. So I just think, I don't think you'll be inundated, but I think you'll be stretched. How about you, Nilla? Hope that answers you, Yael.
Yeah. And Yael, just from a tech place, you go back to the reactions and you can lower your hand now.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah? Cool.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Nilla. And my question for the immersion track, is that virtually or in person?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Thanks, Nilla. The first immersion is online, so that's our intention. We would love to go in person in the second immersion, but we don't know. So you will notice there's 2 sets of dates that are actually out there. This is also for teacher training. There's there's a date in March that will begin with the immersion, and then there's a 3-month break, and then there's another date when we'll do the practicum. If we go in person for the second immersion, we will combine the practicum with the immersion, so people that are traveling from far away will have the opportunity to not have to travel back and forth twice. So there'll be a day break in between, and then we'll do the practicum piece for people that are doing the teacher training part. If for some reason in this incredibly uncertain world that we're in right now, we have different phases of COVID where people just can't travel, then we will consider doing that second immersion online. And we would take a 3-month break in between like we did this one. And then the practicum for teacher training would be bookended. So we don't want to spend 10 days on Zoom together. So we'll go back to the original format. And that's our plan to do it for each phase at this point, is because we want to get started. We have so many people knocking at our door saying, we want to do training, we want to do training. If we don't create a fluid structure, we're just dead in the water, and we aren't moving forward, and neither are you. So I know it's a task for all of us right now to not know for sure, but that's where we are. And then also related to where they'll be, well, that's also another task. Lots of venues are closing and it's uncertain, but our plan right now is to have at least 2 of the immersions. Where I live in Bellingham, Washington, there's a very beautiful studio here called Presence Studio. And the third, we're not sure. It might be Northern California, it might be back in Washington. So I thank you for your patience. We know that you would love to know exactly what's going to happen. Wouldn't we all right now?
Okay, so here's what's happening. Some people are raising their hand and some people are putting notes on chat. So I'm going to go with the raised hand function. Michelle, you're next, and I think you even put something in the chat. Tell us your question.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm sitting on Wurundjeri country down in Melbourne, Australia. So my question is about, is it if we move into in-person delivery, is it possible to kind of change the geographical region? So obviously it's a big deal traveling as opposed to turning up online. So how do you have thoughts about how that might be managed?
We have so many thoughts, Michelle.
Yeah.
They're coming out our eyeballs. Yes, it's one of the big questions because obviously the people in the Southern Hemisphere cannot take the European training. This is the closest. And we purposely made the online hours for the first immersion to accommodate the people in the Australasia, I think that's how you say it, region. That being said, if everything goes in a certain direction, we will go on live, Jenny and I. And what we are hoping is that they will then become another track of training in New Zealand. And if that happens, it would happen at some point in 2023. I don't know exactly when. Again, it depends on if the borders will open, if the world opens, etc. And if so, you can change to that track so that you don't have to travel to Bellingham, Washington, or California. So that is a possibility. But it is not a for sure, and I want you to know that. The other piece I want you to know about that is, irregardless of whether you are able to switch tracks or not, teaching online has become a real thing in our world. And there's some great benefits as well as some liabilities with it, but there are some great benefits. So if you do decide to start with the North American training, you will get the first immersion online and you'll start to deconstruct how that's done. So you're not losing skill base. In fact, I think it would be additive to your training. But that's personal opinion. And I think there's something incredibly intimate about teaching online work.
One of the things that Kathy and I talked about was if you're chomping at the bit, if you're feeling ready to begin, then begin online. You're going to get some really good skills from Kathy and I that can get you going. And then if you wait a year or two, while you might not like it very much, you're going to be ahead of the game then in terms of beginning to teach. Okay, Barry, hi, I see your hand up.
Hi, thanks. So I'm definitely not interested in the teacher track. I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm using it a lot for my own practice. I'm also do a lot of somatic psychotherapy, so I'm very interested in movement, incorporating that into psychotherapy. So here's the question: is two questions. Do I need to take all of the immersions in order to get the benefit of the open floor experience? Should I start with just the emotion one? That's the first question.
Why don't we start there?
Let's do that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barry, I think you probably know about therapy and motion track also, do you?
Yeah, I took that, and I took the ground floor lab. Yeah.
Great. So no, you don't have to do all of the immersions. You can pick and choose. And then you will know, like, let's say you really are interested in the emotional component pieces of the open floor practice, then, and you've already passed by the physical embodiment one, you can go back and do that one. You don't have to do the immersions in any order.
When would that come back around again?
It's a great question. We really don't know. Yeah, we really don't know when the physical embodiment one will come back. It could be in a year, it could be 2. We're really and truly just trying to take a barometer pulse on the field right now.
So, I mean, physical embodiment's a huge part of what I do in my work. Yeah. So my second question is this: I am just booked up to my gills in March. I'm on the East Coast, so I can do part of the evening. It'll be evening for me. I can do part of the evenings and the full weekend. Is that okay to like kind of cafe it? Drop in, smorgasbord, take what I can, or not? Would you say don't do it? Don't take up a spot if I can only do part of the training?
The immersion is definitely created to, smorgasbords are great, right? They're fantastic.
I like them.
Yeah, I like them too. And the immersion is created more like, a beautiful 5-course meal. So, one thing builds off the other, builds off the other, builds off the other, builds off the other. So you might skip a session and then join one and miss a component of what's happening in that next session.
I understood. Will they be recorded and be able to go back to some of the stuff that's missed?
We are going to record them. That is our intention. And it's if you're in teacher training, it's not really an option unless you're ill or a family emergency. It's not really an option to miss a session. Yeah. But for the way that you're doing it, I don't know, Kathy. My inclination is we're not going to say no. We'd love for you to, end.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and watch when I can. I'm not going for the teacher training. Okay,
just so the recordings are definitely not oriented towards just being done in recorded sessions, so that we aren't teaching that way. We really are teaching live. It's just important to know. Anything you want to add, Kathy?
I think a couple of things you point to, Barry. First of all, I just want to say I love that as a therapist, you're realizing the benefit of embodiment work.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Thank goodness. For many, many years, it was really tough for people who were doing therapy to understand the useful tool that embodiment is. That being said, I think it's pretty darn important to look at just the physicality, How do you ground yourself? How do you
Right.
center yourself?
Right.
How do you,
Right.
you know,
Right.
all of those things. So I would encourage, if you are going to do something like this, start at the beginning, even though you've taken some really good fundamental courses through us.
Okay.
That would be my first response.
And some of the teaching you're saying you're not going to say no about maybe watching a video for some of the, if I have to come in late for some of the sessions.
Here's the deal for me. Depending on how many people are actually going to be in the full course would depend on my answer to you. If I feel like the course is full up, I am not going to say yes to come in, go out, come in, go out, even though I could tell you have the capability to do that. But I'm looking at the whole, not just the
Sure.
individual. So that's a more wait and see, love. That's what I would say to that.
So to apply late then to see if it fills up, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Or put in your application, Barry, with the
A caveat.
yeah, with your caveats, and let's see what happens.
Okay. So a third question popped in my head. It sounds like in the teacher track, you've also got videos for learning some of these skills.
Yep.
Is there a way to buy into that? To like I said, smorgasbord that? Not a teacher track person, but to be able to learn from some of those videos and pay as you go?
At some point, Barry, you know, from your mouth to God's ears, that's what I have to say.
Okay.
You know, we're literally working to get these programs off the ground, given the
Okay.
state of the world. And our intention really was to be that kind of university where
Okay.
we'd have all kinds of recordings, because we have some incredible people on our faculty that
Yeah.
I would love you to learn from. And
Yeah.
that's
Same.
not available just yet.
Okay. Thank you
Good
for your
question,
time.
though. Yeah,
Appreciate
no,
it.
pleasure. Thank you for your time. How about the rest of you?
Hi,
Anybody
Kim.
else?
Yeah, I see Kim.
Oh, nice.
Good to see you, Kim. Hi.
Mhm.
Oop, gotta unmute. Yep.
Great to see you. Yeah. My question's about the difference between the therapy and motion track and the teacher training. I'm in the process right now of doing some prerequisites to either become a registered clinical counselor or do a master's of social work program. And those are 2-year programs. I see yours as a 2-year program with not a really intense time commitment. So anyway, I'm just wondering what the differences are and trying to figure that out.
Gonna take it, Kathy?
Kim, I am not clear on your question.
I am.
Oh,
Let me start and then we'll see if we can get through it.
there you go.
So Kim, therapy in motion specifically works with therapeutic theories and work. So like it incorporates attachment relational theory, trauma work, embodied cognition, embodied regulation, Gestalt awareness practice, multiplicity of self states, so and so forth. There's a really amazing sort of flower on our website that shows all the components of the therapy and motion training, and it's specifically going back to working one-on-one with clients. So the difference is that's not training you to teach open floor, our core movement resources, our dimensions of embodiment, all these different pieces that we work with open floor. It relates open floor curriculum to those different areas of therapy, but it's like and there'll be different therapy and motion labs that they'll offer where they might do a whole therapy and motion lab on multiplicity of self states, for example, 5 days of open floor curriculum with that. So that's the therapy and motion track. So the different in the immersion track or the teacher training track is that we're really working with pedagogy of teaching. How do you teach this to a class? How do you teach open floor curriculum to a group? How do you get intimate with what really a deep dive into the different ways to use open floor curriculum? Does that help you?
Yeah, very much.
That was your
Good.
question? Good. Okay. I wasn't sure if you were asking us about your master's program or not. I thought, wow.
Which should I do? Help
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
No.
I thought I heard that question, Kim. Okay. Thanks for taking that one, Jenny.
Yeah,
Melissa,
of course.
how about you? Do you know how to unmute yourself, Melissa?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
My question is, I am interested in going to the teacher training track, but when I went and tried the application, I'm brand new to this. I haven't taken absolutely anything from you guys. And then I think one of the requirements is that I need to have one of some amount of hours and as well as a mentor. So if I'm trying to apply for the one that is starting in March here in the States, I cannot do it, right? I will have to wait until next time.
Well, it depends on, you've taken no courses in body dance or conscious
I do.
dance?
I do. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner, and
Right.
as well I teach somatic movement. So, but I don't have any classes with you with
Right.
open floor at all.
Yeah. Right.
So
There's other people here as well like that. Yeah, that's hard. You know, there's, with any discipline, there's a language. Certainly with SE, there's a language that you've learned and that you can sit in so that you can therefore, you know, present the material to your students. Same thing here. And I think it would make it harder for you. I think if you want to take the immersion, you know, apply, let's see what you got, you know, in your toolkit already. And I don't know. Jenny, if you have a different opinion than me, I would like to hear that.
Melissa, you clearly have a lot of somatic embodiment experience. So the best thing to do is to just go for it and apply. And then Kathy and I will look at your application. We'll ask you questions. We'll see if we can get you up to speed. It's just hard to know without knowing the full breadth of your skills. So please apply. I really encourage you to.
All right. So just applying. I didn't move forward on the application because at the top it say that we have to have some kind of and I totally understand it. But thank you so much.
And we'll remember you asking to, Melissa, and really take a good look and just stay in conversation with you about it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Hi, Raphael.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Raphael.
Long time, years ago.
Long time, love. Yep.
Yes, and I'm still on the road, and I'm still teaching, and I like to approach further, and I always get in contact with the open floor sometimes, but I haven't met the door where to move on. And I think it's about the time to get all what you developed since I'm out of the 5 rhythms in the old days. Yes. So how to get in, and where's a good start for me? What do you think?
Let me let you go, Kathy, since y'all know each other. Go for it.
Well, you know, I would definitely say, you know, take this immersion. You're going to get some great information to augment your 5 rhythm skills. If you're out there teaching right now, this will be nothing but additive to your current skills. I can't imagine it doing anything but being of benefit. And another lens to look through. I know, having taught the 5 rhythms for decades, to have another way to look at the diamond was incredibly helpful to me as a teacher.
Yes, but is that so specialized in European, and now see it's almost about Americans now? Is a special?
There is a European track.
Okay.
It's finishing the first immersion tomorrow, Raphael.
Oh God. Okay.
Right. That doesn't mean that you can't, if you're not going to train to teach this work, that you can't apply to take their second immersion, which is sometime in the fall. And that would
Okay.
be on the emotional intelligence and the emotional embodiment of,
So mhm.
okay.
So I just go to the website and I find it there.
Yes, you will,
Okay.
love. Yeah.
Thanks. That's my
Yeah.
question.
Good. Good. I'm so glad that you're looking at this. For me, it was revelation.
Good.
Hey, Melissa, do you have a new question, or is you need to drop your hand? Okay. And how about anybody else? Comments, thoughts, anything you want us to speak to?
Right.
Michael, hi. Michael, do you want to go ahead? I see your hand raised.
There you
I think
go, love. Yeah.
Unmuted. Did I did it? Can you hear me?
You did it. Yeah, you did it.
Well, I've done a lot of the work with the rhythms and hours. And one of the things that I found interesting is I love the work. I realized, how much trauma there is to move through. But one of the things that we didn't do a lot is I never knew where I was going, or there wasn't really much of a map laid out, like why we were doing the work or where it was going. And someone like me, who's a mapper, I kind of like to look where I might be going so that I can actually place it somewhere. And I was just curious, in this new open floor work, is there something like that available? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm happy to address it, Kathy, and then you can add on. I often say instead of a wave, we have a web, and the web is vast. So there's all sorts of areas you can explore in the open floor embodied intelligence curriculum. And in a way, I look at it as like I travel to different places on this web, depending on what resource I'm looking for in my own life. So for me, it's, what do I want to call it? Vast, infinite, the places that I can go versus finite, the ways that I mix and match the different parts of the open floor curriculum. It's really well outlined when you go through the training. You can see the different components of it, but it isn't, it's different than the rhythms where we would just move. We would say there's 5 ways of moving in the practice. It's different than that, the open floor practices. It's definitely a mix and match curriculum. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to play with this. And the last thing I want to say is that ultimately it all points to learning resiliency in your life, more presence in how you approach your life and your work. It's the total orientation of our curriculum. How would you like to add, Kathy?
Well, Michael, you started by asking the question, and I think it's a very important one, about where am I going? There's so much trauma in the world, right? You mentioned that. And I think I would like to address that, which is there are thousands of sensations we feel every day in every moment of our day. And those sensations lead us to a lot of stories, some of them in the past, some of them in the future, some of them in the current, in the present. And in our curriculum, one of the basic differentiations that we work with at the very beginning of our training is, what am I noticing? What sensation am I noticing? And what stories do I make up about it? Some of them I can't help but make up. It's like the past or trauma or whatever other name you might want to mention there. It floods the present, so we can't be present. It floods our current embodiment. And so we look at in our work, not like where are we going, we also look at where did we come from and how does it stop us from being in the present moment, which is the basis of every embodiment, every mindful discipline. that I have studied in any event. So I just want to mention that there's these differentiations that we are going to focus on. And the biggest one is I have a feeling and then I have a story. And they're not bad, those stories. In fact, they make us up, they make us unique. But if we are only involved with the story, we miss just the embodied presence of sensation. Does that help, Michael?
A lot. It gives me some idea there's a bigger map here than there was in the rhythms.
Well, there were many maps in the rhythms, and it's a brilliant map. I bow to my teacher, and there are many ways to slice and dice this universe, and this is just another one. It doesn't mean it is the one. In fact, my teacher would say, if you think there's only one way, or somebody's telling you that there is, put your Nikes on and run in the other direction.
Michael, Leah pasted in the chat an overview of our curriculum, which is just great to go look at and be curious about. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
so,
you.
Yael, I see that you have your hand up, but I'm going to go to Eric just because he hasn't had a turn yet, and then we'll come back your way. And Jenny is going to take this one, yeah? Hi, Eric.
Nice one. Thanks very much. Yeah, I was wondering, I was just a little bit late for the Europe track, and I was wondering, would there be any chance I could hop onto the US one? I imagine I'd probably just have to stay up a bit later, but I was just wondering, would that be okay?
And Eric, yep, we have had people do labs and other things in Europe. It can be a little difficult staying up late in the night, so you really have to adjust. I actually taught in Europe at one point, so I would go to bed at 4 in the afternoon, wake up at midnight, go teach. It's a challenge, but you can do it. And you also can do the first phase with us in the US, and then you can flip-flop, you can switch. You can do the rest in Europe if you want. Yep. And same thing with Europeans can also do some modules in the United States.
Oh, brilliant. Cheers. Nice one. Thanks, George.
Okay, great, Eric.
Thanks. And then we'll go to Monique.
Just a couple more questions popped to mind. So I'm wondering whether the references need to be open floor teachers. No, okay.
No.
Great.
It's helpful if at least one of them is, because we know these people.
Yeah.
But no.
Okay. And just there's a component that's 20 hours of mindfulness studies. I'm just wondering what counts towards that.
Jenny, do you want to take that one?
I'm writing a note to someone. So would you go for it, Kathy?
Mindfulness studies, anything that, any meditation practice, any quieting practice, any practice of presence where you are actually looking at where the mind goes and how to find a way to not only track it, but to allow it so that you could quiet maybe below the mind. Those are the kind of practices we're looking for.
So it could just be my personal meditation practice. It doesn't need to be like I go to an hour of meditation class, or
it could be your personal, but you could speak to that. And I'd be very curious what prompted it, how'd you learn it, what is your regular practice, all those kind of good inquiries around a personal practice.
And regarding the teacher training versus the therapist in motion, like I'm guessing that if I did the teacher training, I would be able to transfer some of those skills to a one-on-one environment if I wanted to down the track, or would I be best to actually do both tracks, or use the therapy in motion track and then bring those skills to a group the other way?
I'll answer it if you'd like. Even if you do an immersion, you can bring it into one-on-one work that you do with people. The immersions are oriented in that way. So it's important just to note that the immersions are about how you use the open floor curriculum in your everyday life, but also how you can apply it to your work. So And definitely the full teacher training, I do one-on-one embodiment coaching with people, and you will learn a lot of skills and tools that you can use working with clients.
Yeah.
Jenny, I just wanted to mention too that there really is no therapy in motion teacher training track right now. There are foundational labs that are going to be offered this year, 2 of them for therapy in motion, but there's no component of the teacher track right now for therapy in motion.
And it's my understanding there isn't going to be, Leah. They'll just do different labs, 5-day programs throughout the year, about 2 a year, that will work with different components of the therapy in motion track. It's quite different. Mm-hmm.
And one more quick thing.
Okay, and then we're going to go to Monique. So go ahead, sweetheart.
Just quickly, I'm guessing that like I'm going to come away from the teacher training with like specific ideas of how to teach core movement resources. Is that correct, or is it more that I would get a lot of general skills and then it would still be up to me to kind of generate?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Both. You're going to get tons of ideas about how to teach. You're going to be in a cohort of peers who are going to generate class plans with you. You're going to deconstruct the plans that Jenny and I each bring to you and say, not only what did I feel about that, how does that apply to my life and my work right now, and how, if I was going to teach that, what happened there? And why did you choose these different components in your teaching plan? So there's all kinds of skill building in terms of how to plan a class, how to plan a curriculum, how to plan an extended event or a shorter event. And you will be coming up with a lot of those as well on your own. Part of it is we're not going to sit on that level of creativity for you. Why would we do that? We want to spark your creativity, not just hand you a cookie and say, once you're done with the cookie, that's it. No, we want to teach you how to bake.
Thank you very much.
Before we go to Monique, Kathy, there's been a message in the chat for a while that I'm just tracking. So I'm going to go ahead and answer Helen's question.
Good.
Hi, Helen. She said that how much of the curriculum is physical as opposed to heady? She just completed a study with something else and she wanted more embodiment. Everything that we do in open floor is anchored in the body. We work with physical movement. So we may work with a mindfulness concept or a concept with the emotion, but everything we do goes back to movement. And we learn through the movement of our body. And we definitely bring mindfulness into it, like tracking, witnessing, noticing, sensing. We call those awareness questions. What do you feel right now? What are you sensing right now? What's happening when you move that way? So we are bringing the mind into it in that way, but everything is anchored through movement and embodiment.
Yeah, you would not be taking a course from me that didn't include movement. That would be like saying, you know, you're a chef, but we're not going to cook. So, yeah. So, yes,
Yeah.
movement is in everything that we do. But thanks, Jenny, for tracking that question.
Why don't you take Monique?
Yeah. Monique
Thank
and then
you.
Genevieve.
Can you hear me? I'm on my phone now.
You're good. Oops.
Audio. Okay. So what I'm using the course for is I speak on well-being. So my audience will be like corporate audiences or conferences, people who aren't coming to dance. So I'm kind of curious if you're going to be covering some of that. And I would love to take the 2-year training if I was not 62 years old and like doing other things in the next 2 years that are really important for the trajectory of my life. But specifically taking the immersions, and I would like to take all of them.
So are you asking whether we will specifically cover how to get people to move that didn't come to move?
Who might not even know that they would enjoy it.
Of course, that will be part of our co-creation. We're not going to tell you how to do that. but I can't imagine you wouldn't be able to glean ideas. I mean, resistance comes in many forms. One of them is just ignorance. I didn't even know I wanted to. One of them is I've done a lot of this and I'm not sure I want to move today. So there's many forms. And, you know, our work is to be magicians in some way. How do we invite and encourage movement regardless of our preference?
Monique, in the immersions, you'll get a chance to ask that sort of a question with something that Kathy and I are teaching. So it'll be, how does this affect you? How do you imagine you might apply in your life? And if you get that sort of question, we would really encourage you to bring it, because your question about that might help someone who is a teacher work with their students, might help someone who's a manager that trains people in customer service. So just so you know, we'll welcome that kind of question.
You're on mute.
You feel complete, Monique? We still can't hear you.
How about we move to Genevieve and we'll come back to you. Thank you. This way you won't get flustered. Genevieve, how about you?
And if you have a clarification, Monique, and you can't figure it out, feel free to chat us. We'll try to write it.
Hey, Genevieve.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Jenny. Hi, everyone. Genevieve here. I live just north of Sydney, Australia. I'm glad I showed up to this information session. It's giving me a sense of what it is you do. My background is I've done a few open floor workshops, but primarily 5 rhythms. And look, my question's not fully formed, but I have been working towards teacher training for a long time, and it's a very slow journey, and I'm comfortable with that. So I'm looking at doing the teacher training. Where I feel a bit blocked is even though I'm open to obviously kind of doing the online training and adapting, I've adapted to Zoom in many areas of my life, but I want to be able to bring this to my community, you know. So if I'm getting as much as I can from the online teacher training and having those experiences, I want to be able to offer this in my community with, you know, with integrity and some expertise. But I'm also going to need support. So I'm just wondering, how are emerging sort of teachers supposed to transition this work from virtual to physical with support and integrity?
Jenny, do you want to take that, or would you like me to? You go.
You're just asking such an important question, Genevieve, that we ask all the time as well. And we seem to come back again and again and again that there's, at this point where we are with our training, how could we graduate someone that we didn't actually move with and experience and work with them in person? So I think we're on the same page as you, is that feels really important, that if you're going to be teaching in-person classes, we're going to have to get on the floor together. We just need to. So, you know, at this point, our intention is to do 1 phase online and 3 in person. We might have to do 2 phases online and 2 in person. And maybe it's going to be 1, but at the very least, we are definitely holding out at this point where we're going to move together on the floor and get feedback in person.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It makes sense what you're saying. It's important.
Yeah, it's also kind of about starting the work. Like, this has been incubating for a long time in my life, and so I guess part of it is, you know, how much of it is me getting in the way of actioning it, but more predominantly is that the incubation period for embodying this work is, it's so kind of, it's getting so mature and it's getting so juicy that I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready to do this, but I don't want to, there's kind of like a, I don't want to be a cowboy and go out there and just kind of go, oh, look, I've been doing this practice in some way, shape, or form for 20 years. So I could probably go, oh, come and join my embodied movement class. It's not really, I want to be part of something bigger than me for that support and that ongoing learning. So it's like, it's all very well for me to go, okay, I'm going to do 2 years on and off, and then I'm going to show up hopefully and get on the floor with you guys. And but at what point, without kind of someone in my area to mentor or guide, when can I actually go and run a class, and go, hey.
Well, Genevieve, I'm going to pause you for a second, okay? Because I could see your mind is just vast and you have a lot of thoughts about this and have for a long time. So let me just distill into one small piece. You mentioned the word integrity. Nobody can say what is an integral for someone else. That's why I started with, what is your soul's calling? What is your purpose here? And then how do I get there, and what kind of support can I give myself so that I can do this in a way that feels right for me, not out of balance, but in balance. There's a lot of support when you take the training. You get a mentor, you get a peer group, you get live webinars, you get Jenny and me and all of our great assistants. You get all that. And it's both in person and online. That's the nature of the beast at this moment. If you decide, I don't want to do it that way, then you will go another way. But I think that for me, you are exactly the kind of person I was speaking to at the beginning. You got to go in, honey, and say, what is it that this mind-body organism needs now? And is this my right next step? And it might look a little strange, but at some point we trust that even though I might not know 7 steps ahead, I will know the next step for myself. That would be my suggestion, is you have to decide for yourself, am I going to take the plunge? Am I going to get the support I need? Or do I need to go another way? And then, universe, help me out here. What is that other way? But you have a lot of experience, honey. So I think coalescing it would be useful. I don't know if that was helpful, but it is what I honestly feel for you. And I'm
100% helpful. And and I suppose because I'm not really that embarrassed to kind of do that whole brain dump. So to have you distill that and feed it back to me, that's so worth just being here today to get that direct communication from you. So thank you.
You're welcome, Genevieve. And the one possibility is you just take that first immersion and then you make that choice. See, that we're trying to give space here, trying not to create anxiety. Learning in any environment has a certain high level to it, a certain activation to it. We don't need to add to the activation. It will be there. And so, one choice is, let me put one foot into this ocean and see what we go. How we go. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sweetie. It is 5:01. I want to really honor our time here. There might be other questions. And if there are, Jenny, I don't know where you went on my screen. Lord have mercy. Okay, whatever. If you have other questions, we really recommend that you write to Leah at openfloor.org, and she will pass them on to you. If we can, we will just answer all of them, or we might say, Let's have a conversation. We can't have a conversation with every single person, but if there is something really specific that you need, write to Leah, and Jenny and I will do our absolute best to answer your specifics. Jenny, is there anything else that you want to say here?
I think she jumped off. I think
that's why I couldn't find her. Yeah, okay, I am not crazy.
I don't see her.
Okay, well, I'm glad. See, that's the advantage of two people on line. Okay, well, okay, I want to end this, and here's how I would like to end. I want to put the bookend at the back. Also, my arrow is willing to chat as well. Our beautiful open floor teacher in Montreal. So again, if you'd either take your eyes off the screen, or if it's right to close them, if not, turn away for a minute, sit on back to whatever is supporting you behind you. It might be the chair, it might be the air, it might be a sense of having someone's hand at your back. Just know there is a ton of information that we covered and some that we didn't cover. Only you can know what your next step is. We are here to absolutely help you take the step towards us if that is right. And if not, we absolutely send you blessings. This world needs people to move and dance and not sit in their chairs 1 minute more than is necessary. So we send you our good wishes. On the next exhale, open your eyes, come on back. Thank you, Leah, for chatting away. Thank you, all of you, for spending your either Saturday or Sunday with us for an hour. We really appreciate you being here. We appreciate your interest. You know, we always say, you know, without you, we don't teach. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And we send
Thanks,
you our
everyone.
best.
Sorry, I blinked out for a moment, but be well, everyone. Thank you.
Glad you're back. Okay, much love.